My name is Rachel. I am 34 years old, and I will never forget the moment I stood outside my husband's office door clutching a lottery ticket worth $50 million in one hand and my 5-year-old son's fingers in the other. I had rushed there to share the most incredible news of my life. But the sounds coming from inside that room changed everything. What I did next became the most satisfying decision I have ever made. Before I tell you what happened, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever felt undervalued by someone who should have loved you. Because the choice I made in that moment became the most liberating decision of my entire life. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a modest house on a quiet street where everyone knew their neighbors. My father, Frank, worked as an electrician, spending long days fixing wiring in old buildings and coming home with calloused hands and a tired smile. My mother, Diane, taught second grade at the local elementary school, and she had this gift for making every child feel special. I have an older brother named Marcus who is 3 years ahead of me. He was always protective, always looking out for his little sister. We were not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but we never went hungry. My parents taught us the value of hard work, of saving every penny, of earning what you have. I took those lessons to heart. I was a good student. Numbers came naturally to me, so when it was time for college, I enrolled at Ohio State University and majored in accounting. 4 years later, I graduated with honors and landed a job at a mid-sized accounting firm in Cleveland. I was proud of myself. I had a career, a salary, and independence. That was the life I had built for myself before I met Kevin. It happened 7 years ago at a wedding reception for a mutual friend. I was standing near the dessert table debating between chocolate cake and cheesecake when a tall man with perfectly styled hair and an expensive suit approached me. He had one of those smiles that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. "You look like someone who knows the difference between assets and liabilities," he said. It was the corniest pickup line I had ever heard. But something about the way he delivered it with that confident grin and those bright eyes made me laugh instead of roll my eyes. We talked for hours that night. Kevin worked as a financial analyst at an investment firm downtown. He was ambitious, driven, full of plans for the future. He wanted to become a partner someday. He wanted a big house, nice cars, a family. He spoke about his dreams with such certainty that I found myself believing in them too. By the end of the evening, we had exchanged phone numbers. By the end of the month, we were officially dating. Those first 6 months were magical. Kevin was romantic in ways I had never experienced. He sent flowers to my office for no reason. He texted me good morning messages that made my heart flutter. He planned elaborate dates from rooftop dinners to weekend getaways. When he met my parents, he charmed them completely. My father appreciated his firm handshake and direct eye contact. My mother loved how attentive he was to me. Even Marcus, who was suspicious of every man I dated, admitted that Kevin seemed like a good guy. I met Kevin's parents too, though briefly. They had divorced when he was young, and he was not close to either of them. He rarely talked about his childhood, and I did not push. Some wounds I thought need time to heal. There were signs looking back, small things I should have noticed. Kevin loved talking about himself, his achievements, his goals, his opinions. When I tried to share something about my day, he would listen for a moment before steering the conversation back to him. He did not handle criticism well. If I suggested a different restaurant or questioned one of his ideas, his mood would shift instantly. He would become cold distant until I apologized for something that was not really my fault. And he had this habit of putting down other people to make himself look better. His coworkers were incompetent. His boss was an idiot. Everyone around him was somehow beneath him. But I was young and in love. I told myself these were minor flaws. Nobody is perfect, right? After a year of dating, Kevin proposed. He took me to a fancy Italian restaurant, got down on one knee in front of everyone, and presented me with a diamond ring. It was modest compared to what he probably wanted to buy, but he assured me that bigger things were coming. I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was 6 months later. Simple ceremony at a small church reception at a local venue. My parents paid for most of it. Kevin promised to pay them back once his year-end bonus came through. That bonus never materialized. Or if it did, Kevin never mentioned paying my parents. I was too embarrassed to bring it up, so I let it go. We moved into a rented apartment in Cleveland Heights and began our life together as husband and wife. Both of us worked full-time. I was doing well at the accounting firm, earning promotions and respect from my colleagues. Kevin was climbing the ladder at his investment company. Then, 2 years into our marriage, I discovered I was pregnant. Kevin seemed genuinely happy when I told him. "We are going to be a family," he said, holding me close. When our son Ethan was born, everything changed. Childcare in Cleveland was expensive. We looked at daycare centers, nannies, au pairs. The cheapest option we could find was nearly $2,000 a month. Kevin sat me down one evening with a spreadsheet on his laptop. "Look at these numbers," he said. "Your salary after taxes is about $48,000 a year. Daycare will cost around $24,000. Add in commuting costs, work clothes, lunches out. By the time we factor everything in, you are barely making a few $1,000s more than if you just stayed home." My stomach twisted as I stared at the screen. I loved my job. I had worked so hard to build my career. But Kevin's logic was sound. The numbers did not lie. "I will work harder," he promised. "I am up for a promotion soon. We will be fine. And once Ethan starts school, you can go back to work." So I quit my job. I gave up my salary, my independence, my identity outside of being Kevin's wife and Ethan's mother. I told myself it was temporary. Just a few years. I would be back in the workforce before I knew it. But temporary turned into 5 years. And somewhere along the way, the man I married became someone I no longer recognized. I thought marriage would be the beginning of our fairy tale. I had no idea it was the start of something else entirely. The comments started when Ethan was about 2 years old. Kevin had just been promoted to senior analyst. His salary increased significantly, and we were finally able to buy a small house in Shaker Heights. I was thrilled. After years of renting, we finally had something that was ours. But instead of celebrating, Kevin seemed more stressed than ever. One evening, after a particularly long day, he came home and dropped onto the couch with a heavy sigh. "Do you have any idea how much pressure I am under?" he asked, not really looking at me. "I am the only one bringing in money. Everything falls on my shoulders. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner while keeping an eye on Ethan, who was playing with blocks on the floor. I take care of Ethan full-time," I reminded him gently. "That is work too." Kevin let out a short, bitter laugh. "It is not the same, Rachel. You do not bring in a paycheck. What you do is not real work." The words hit me like a slap across the face. I stood there, frozen wooden spoon in hand, trying to process what he had just said. He did not apologize. He did not even seem to realize how much his words hurt. He just turned on the television and started watching sports. That was the first time. It was not the last. The comments became a pattern, appearing whenever money came up in conversation. The water bill increased 1 month. "If you were working," Kevin said, "we would not have to stress about things like this." Ethan needed new shoes because his feet had grown. "Everything falls on me," Kevin muttered while swiping his credit card. We went to a dinner party with his coworkers, and afterward Kevin complained in the car. "All their wives work. They have 2 incomes. We only have mine." I offered to find a part-time job. "Maybe I could work evenings or weekends," I suggested. "And who is going to watch?" Ethan Kevin shot back. "Daycare costs more than you would make. It does not make sense." It was a trap with no way out. I could not work because childcare was too expensive. But by not working, I was a financial burden. Kevin had constructed a perfect circle of blame, and I was stuck inside it. I started cutting back on everything. I stopped buying new clothes for myself. I canceled my gym membership. I skipped coffee outings with friends because I felt guilty spending even a few dollars. I clipped coupons, obsessively planned meals around whatever was on sale, stretched every grocery dollar as far as it could go. Meanwhile, Kevin bought a new suit for a conference. He upgraded his watch. He joined an expensive gym with a sauna and personal trainers. When I pointed out the discrepancy, he said, "I need to look successful for work. It is an investment." I was too tired to argue. As the years passed, I found myself increasingly isolated. My friends from the accounting firm had moved on with their careers. They were busy with their own lives, and I had nothing new to contribute to conversations. What was I going to talk about? Which brand of diapers was on sale? How many times Ethan had thrown his vegetables on the floor? My days blended together in an endless loop. Wake up, feed Ethan, play with Ethan, clean the house, make lunch, put Ethan down for a nap, clean some more, make dinner, wait for Kevin, eat together in near silence, watch Kevin disappear into his phone or the television, go to bed, repeat. Communication between us dwindled to logistics. Did you pay the electric bill? What time is Ethan's doctor appointment? I have a work dinner Thursday. I tried to connect with him. How was your day, I would ask. Stressful, he would reply. You would not understand. You do not work. Every response was a reminder that I was less than, that my contributions did not count, that I was not his partner but his dependent. I started to wonder if he was right. Maybe I was worthless. Maybe I was a burden. Maybe this was all I was good for. About 6 months before everything fell apart, I started noticing changes in Kevin's behavior. He was coming home later than usual. Client meetings running late, he would explain. Or unexpected conference calls. Or traffic. His phone became a fortress. He changed his password and kept the screen facing down whenever he set it on a table. He started taking calls in the other room, closing the door behind him. He traveled more for work. A conference in Chicago. A meeting in Detroit. An important client dinner in Columbus. Sometimes he was gone for 2 or 3 days at a time. I noticed other things too. He started paying more attention to his appearance. New cologne. More time at the gym. Careful attention to his grooming. One day, while doing laundry, I found a receipt in the pocket of his suit jacket. It was from an upscale restaurant downtown. Dinner for 2. A bottle of wine that cost more than our weekly grocery budget. The date was from a night Kevin had claimed to be at a solo work event. My hands trembled as I stared at that piece of paper. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to demand answers. But something held me back. Maybe I was afraid of what I would find. Maybe I was afraid of being called paranoid or jealous. Maybe I was just too exhausted to fight. So I folded the receipt and tucked it into my dresser drawer. I did not say a word, but the suspicion had taken root. It grew quietly in the back of my mind, waiting for confirmation. I told myself I was imagining things, that Kevin was just stressed from work. I was so busy surviving each day that I did not want to see what was right in front of me. I have a small confession to make. Despite all my careful budgeting and penny pinching, I had one tiny indulgence that I refused to give up. Every week, I bought a Powerball lottery ticket. It cost $2. Just $2. The only money I spent purely on myself. Kevin knew about it, and he never let me forget how stupid he thought it was. You are literally throwing money away, he told me more than once. The odds of winning are basically 0. It is a tax on people who are bad at math. The irony of a financial analyst being so dismissive of probability was not lost on me. But I kept buying the tickets anyway. It was not really about the money. It was about hope. For $2, I got to dream for a few days. I got to imagine a different life. One where I did not have to count every penny. One where I was not made to feel like a burden. What if we win, I would think to myself. I could go back to school. Ethan could have everything he needs. Kevin would not stress anymore. Every Saturday night, I would check the numbers. The most I ever won was $10, which I promptly spent on more tickets. It was silly, I know. But it was mine. That Saturday in October started like any other. The air was crisp with the promise of fall, and the trees in our neighborhood were beginning to turn orange and gold. Kevin left early that morning. Big project at work, he said as he grabbed his keys. I will be at the office all day. Ethan and I had our usual routine. I made him pancakes with a smiley face made of blueberries. We watched his favorite cartoon about talking dogs who solve problems. He laughed at the same jokes he had heard 100 times before, and I laughed with him because his joy was contagious. After breakfast, I settled onto the couch with my coffee and opened my laptop. I remembered that the Powerball drawing had been the night before and the jackpot had grown to an enormous sum, $50 million. I reached for my purse and pulled out the ticket I had bought earlier that week. The numbers stared back at me. 7, 14, 23, 38, 42, Powerball 19. I navigated to the lottery website and clicked on the winning numbers. 7, 14, 23, 38, 42, Powerball 19. I blinked, read them again, then again. My eyes moved back and forth between the screen and the ticket in my shaking hand. All 6 numbers matched. I could not breathe. I checked 2 more websites, then 3. Each one confirmed what I could not believe. I had won the Powerball jackpot, $50 million. The lump sum payout after taxes would be approximately $25 million. $25 million. I burst into tears. My hand flew to my mouth to muffle the sound that escaped something between a laugh and a sob. Ethan came running over, his little face creased with worry. Mommy, why are you crying? I pulled him into my arms and held him tight. Mommy is happy, baby. Very, very happy. For a few minutes I just sat there holding my son, trying to comprehend what had happened. My mind raced through possibilities. Paying off the house. Setting up a college fund for Ethan. Traveling to places I had only seen in magazines. Never worrying about grocery budgets again. And then another thought crystallized in my brain. Kevin. I needed to tell Kevin. I wanted to see his face when he heard the news. I wanted to prove once and for all that I was not worthless, that my little $2 habit was not a waste of money, that I had contributed something massive to our family. He will never call me a burden again, I thought. I did not want to tell him over the phone. I wanted to see his expression, to witness the moment everything changed between us. I got Ethan dressed in record time. I threw on the nicest sweater I owned and a pair of clean jeans. I tucked the lottery ticket into my jacket pocket, pressing my hand against it to make sure it was secure. We are going to see Daddy at work, I told Ethan as I buckled him into his car seat. Yay, he clapped his hands. Daddy. I drove the 20 minutes to downtown Cleveland, my heart pounding the entire way. I rehearsed what I would say. Kevin, I have something incredible to tell you. You are never going to believe this. We won the lottery. I parked in the lot next to his office building and helped Ethan out of the car. The security guard in the lobby recognized me. Mrs. Parker, here to see Kevin. I nodded, forcing a smile despite my nerves. Surprise visit, I said. He waved us through, and we took the elevator to the 12th floor. Kevin's office was at the end of a long hallway. It was Saturday, so the floor was mostly empty. A few dedicated workers sat at their desks, but none of them paid attention to us. I walked toward his door, Ethan's small hand clasped in mine, and then I heard it. At first I thought I was imagining things. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe it was the television. But as I got closer, the sounds became unmistakable. A woman's voice, low and breathy. A man's voice responding. Kevin's voice. Laughter. Whispers. And other sounds that needed no interpretation. I stopped walking. My feet would not move another inch. Through the frosted glass of his office door, I could see 2 shadowy figures, close together, moving. My heart, which had been racing with excitement just moments before, now felt like it had stopped completely. Ethan tugged at my hand. Mommy, can we go see Daddy now? I looked down at my beautiful boy. His innocent eyes, unaware of the world shattering around us. Not yet, sweetheart, I whispered. Not yet. I stood frozen in that hallway for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 30 seconds. My brain struggled to process what my ears were telling me. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a movie on his computer. Maybe I was misunderstanding. But then I heard Kevin's voice clearly through the door. Rachel thinks I am working. She is clueless. Laughter from the woman. My husband was in his office with another woman, and they were laughing at me. Something strange happened inside me at that moment. I expected to feel devastated, heartbroken, ready to burst through the door, screaming and crying. Instead, I felt nothing. A cold, clear nothing that spread through my veins like ice water. My hand moved automatically to the pocket where the lottery ticket rested against my chest. $50 million. My $50 million. And suddenly, everything made sense. I could open this door right now. I could confront them. I could make a scene that would haunt Kevin for the rest of his life. Or I could be smart. I could be strategic. I could make sure that when the dust settled, I came out on top. I chose option 2. Without a word, I turned around and led Ethan back toward the elevator. He was confused but did not resist. He trusted me. We took the elevator down, walked through the lobby, got back in the car. I buckled Ethan into his seat with hands that were surprisingly steady. "Are we not seeing Daddy?" Ethan asked. "Not today, baby. Daddy is busy." I drove home in complete silence. No radio. No talking. Just the sound of the tires on the road and my own thoughts racing through my head. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I had a plan. I was not going to tell Kevin about the lottery. Not today. Not until I had protected myself and Ethan. I needed a lawyer. I needed to understand my rights. I needed to make sure that when I left this marriage, I left it with what was mine. The first call I made was to Marcus. My brother answered on the second ring. "Hey, little sister." "What is up, Marcus? I need your help." I kept my voice calm despite the storm inside me. "Can you come to Cleveland today if possible?" "What happened? Are you okay? Is Ethan okay?" "We are fine. Physically. But I need you here, and I need you to bring your friend Sandra, the one who handles divorces." There was a long pause. "Rachel, you are scaring me. Just trust me. This is important. Please." Marcus did not ask any more questions. "I am leaving Columbus in 10 minutes. I will be there in 2 hours." I hung up and looked at Ethan, who was happily playing with his toy trucks on the living room floor, oblivious to everything that was happening. "I am going to protect you," I promised him silently. "Whatever it takes." True to his word, Marcus arrived just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He was not alone. Sandra Collins was with him. She was a sharp woman in her late 40s with steel gray eyes and a reputation for being one of the best family law attorneys in Ohio. I sat them down at the kitchen table while Ethan watched cartoons in the next room. Then I told them everything. The years of being called a burden, the financial control, the emotional neglect, the receipt I had found months ago, and what I had heard that morning outside Kevin's office door. When I finished, Sandra's expression was grim but unsurprised. She had probably heard stories like this 1,000 times. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out the lottery ticket. "There is one more thing," I said. "I won the Powerball last night. $50 million. Marcus's jaw dropped. Sandra's eyebrows shot up. I slid the ticket across the table. "I bought this with money I saved from the grocery budget. $2 a week. Kevin never contributed to it. In fact, he made fun of me for buying tickets at all." Sandra picked up the ticket, carefully examining it like it was made of gold. "Which in a way it was. And Kevin does not know?" she asked. I shook head. "No one knows except the two of you." Sandra leaned back in her chair, her mind clearly working through the implications. "In Ohio," she said slowly, "assets acquired during marriage are generally considered marital property. That includes lottery winnings." My heart sank. "However," Sandra continued, "there are exceptions. If you can prove that the ticket was purchased with funds that were your separate property, and if Kevin had no involvement or expectation of the winnings, we may be able to argue that this is a separate asset." She looked at me directly. "You said you saved this money from the grocery budget. Did Kevin know about these savings?" "No." I kept it in a small jar in the back of my closet. He never asked about it. He did not care as long as the household ran smoothly, and he actively discouraged you from buying tickets. Yes, he called it throwing money away. Sandra nodded slowly. That helps. Combined with evidence of his infidelity and financial control, we can build a strong case that these winnings belong to you alone. But we need to move carefully. Marcus reached across the table and squeezed my hand. What do you want to do? Rachel, I looked at my brother, then at Sandra, then at the lottery ticket that represented a future I had never dared to imagine. I want my freedom, I said. I want Ethan, and I want Kevin to realize exactly what he lost. The next 3 weeks were the hardest performance of my life. I went home that afternoon and acted as if nothing had happened. When Kevin returned from the office that evening, I greeted him with the same tired smile I always wore. How was work? Long, he said, not meeting my eyes. Project took forever. I nodded and served dinner. We ate in our usual silence. He retreated to the living room to watch television. I cleaned up the kitchen and put Ethan to bed. Normal. Everything had to appear normal. But behind the scenes, I was building my escape. Every night after Kevin fell asleep, I would slip into the bathroom with my phone. Sandra and I exchanged emails, constantly refining our strategy-gathering documentation. I started collecting evidence. Credit card statements that showed Kevin's expensive purchases while I clipped coupons. His calendar, which I photographed from his computer when he was in the shower, showing client dinners that coincided with hotel charges. The receipt from that restaurant dinner, which I had kept hidden in my dresser for months. I found small amounts of money I had saved over the years and quietly transferred them to a separate account that Marcus helped me open. It was not much, maybe a few $100s, but it was mine. Sandra connected me with a private investigator named Garrett. He was recommended specifically for cases like mine. Discreet, thorough, and experienced. Within 2 weeks, Garrett had compiled a devastating file. He had followed Kevin for 12 days straight. He had photographs, videos, timestamps. Her name was Megan. She was 28 years old and worked as a marketing coordinator at Kevin's company. Blonde hair, bright smile, completely unaware that she was the other woman in a crumbling marriage. Or maybe she knew and did not care. Either way, it did not matter. Garrett documented everything. Kevin and Megan entering a hotel together, leaving 3 hours later, having cozy dinners at restaurants across the city, kissing in the parking garage at work. I looked through the evidence with a detachment that surprised me. I had expected to feel rage, betrayal, devastation. Instead, I felt validation. I had known something was wrong for months. Now I had proof. While Garrett worked on the affair evidence, Sandra tackled the lottery situation. We needed to claim the prize before Kevin found out. The longer we waited, the riskier it became. What if he stumbled across the ticket? What if news got out somehow? On a Wednesday afternoon, while Kevin was at work and Ethan was at a play date with a neighbor's child, I drove to the Ohio Lottery Commission headquarters with Marcus and Sandra. The process was surreal. Security checks, verification, paperwork that seemed endless. But finally, after hours of procedures, it was official. I had won $50 million. I chose the lump sum option. After federal and state taxes, the final amount deposited into a specially created trust account was approximately $24 million. $24 million. In my name. Protected by a legal structure that Sandra had carefully designed. I signed the final documents with a hand that trembled slightly. Marcus hugged me afterward. I am so proud of you, he said. You are the bravest person I know. I did not feel brave. I felt terrified. But I also felt something I had not felt in years. I felt powerful. The final week before confrontation was a blur of preparation. I rented a small apartment in Lakewood about 20 minutes from our house. I paid cash for 3 months up front. Sandra advised me not to use credit cards or anything that Kevin could trace. I quietly packed essential items, important documents like birth certificates and social security cards. Irreplaceable photographs, Ethan's favorite toys and clothes, my own belongings, what little I had that felt worth keeping. Everything was stored at Marcus's place in Columbus, ready for when I needed it. Sandra finalized the divorce paperwork. She had built an airtight case, evidence of infidelity, documentation of financial abuse, a clear argument for the lottery winnings being separate property, a custody arrangement that would give me primary care of Ethan while allowing Kevin visitation rights. All that remained was the confrontation. I chose Friday evening. Kevin always came home from work around 7 on Fridays, eager for the weekend. He would be relaxed, unsuspecting. That morning I dropped Ethan off at Marcus's house. "Are you sure you want to do this alone?" Marcus asked. "I have to," I told him, "but I will call you the second it is over." He hugged me tight. "You have got this." I drove back to Cleveland and waited in the house that would soon no longer be my home. Everything was in place. The documents, the evidence, the money secured. All that was left was to look Kevin in the eye and tell him the truth. Not all of it. Just enough to watch his world crumble. Kevin walked through the door at exactly 7:15. I was sitting at the dining table, a folder in front of me. The house was quiet. Too quiet. He noticed immediately. "Where is Ethan?" "At Marcus's house," I said evenly. "I wanted us to talk. Alone." His brow furrowed as he set down his briefcase and loosened his tie. "Talk about what?" I slid the folder across the table toward him. "About this." He opened it with a puzzled expression that quickly transformed into something else entirely. Horror. Panic. Fear. Inside were the photographs Garrett had taken. Kevin and Megan at the hotel. Kevin and Megan at dinner. Kevin and Megan in his car, their faces close together. "Where did you get these?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "That does not matter. What matters is that I know everything." He looked up at me, and for the first time in years, I saw something other than contempt in his eyes. I saw desperation. "Rachel, I can explain. It is not what it looks like." I almost laughed. "Kevin, I was there. At your office. 3 weeks ago. I heard everything." The color drained from his face. "You were there. I came to surprise you with good news. Instead, I heard you and Megan laughing about how clueless I am." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. "The funny thing is," I continued, "I was so excited that day. I could not wait to share something incredible with you. But when I heard what you were doing behind that door, I realized something important. What that you did not deserve to know." I reached into my bag and pulled out a second folder. "The divorce papers. I am filing for divorce. You will be served officially on Monday. But I wanted you to hear it from me first." Kevin shot to his feet, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Rachel, please. We can work this out. Think about Ethan. Think about our family." I stood up as well, meeting his eyes without flinching. "I am thinking about Ethan. That is exactly why I'm leaving you. I will not raise my son in a house where his mother is treated like she is worthless." "You cannot do this," he said, panic rising in his voice. "You have no job, no money. How will you even survive?" This was the moment I had been waiting for. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a single piece of paper. The receipt from the Lottery Commission confirming my prize claim. "Remember how you used to mock me for buying lottery tickets?" I asked, my voice steady. "You called it throwing money away. You said I was bad at math." I placed the receipt on the table between us. 3 weeks ago, the same day I came to your office, I won the Powerball jackpot." Kevin stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. "What $50 million, Kevin?" "I won $50 million, and I have already claimed it." He grabbed the receipt, reading it over and over as if the words might change. That is ours," he finally stammered. "We are married. This is marital property." I shook my head slowly, savoring every second. "Actually, no. I bought that ticket with money I saved from the grocery budget. Money I scraped together while you were spending on fancy dinners with your girlfriend. My lawyer has documented everything. The ticket is my separate property. Kevin's face contorted with rage. You cannot do this. I will fight you in court. I will take you for everything. Go ahead. But here is what the court will see. A husband who cheated on his wife, who called her a burden while she raised his child, who controlled every penny while spending freely on himself, who was caught on camera in a hotel room with his coworker. I stepped closer to him. You made me feel worthless for 5 years, Kevin. You called me a burden. You treated me like I was less than nothing. And all that time, you were the one who was not worth my loyalty. He sank back into the chair, all the fight draining out of him. I gathered the divorce papers and put them back in my bag. I am taking Ethan. My lawyer will handle custody arrangements. You will have visitation rights, but he will live with me. You cannot take my son, Kevin said weakly. Watch me. With your infidelity on record and my financial stability proven, I will have no problem getting primary custody. I walked toward the door, then paused with my hand on the knob. You know what the ironic part is? I said, not turning around. I came to your office that day to share the best news of my life with you. I thought maybe it would change things. Maybe you would finally see me as an equal. Instead, I heard you laughing with another woman, calling me clueless. I looked over my shoulder at him one last time. That moment was the most clarifying moment of my life. You did not break me, Kevin. You set me free. I opened the door and stepped out into the cool evening air. Behind me, I heard Kevin call my name. Once, twice, his voice cracking with desperation. I did not look back. I got in my car and drove to Columbus to Marcus's house to my son. Ethan ran into my arms the moment I walked through the door. Mommy, are we going home now? I held him close, breathing in the sweet smell of his hair. We are going to a new home, baby. Just you and me. It is going to be even better than the old one. Okay, he said cheerfully, already moving on to his next thought. Can I bring my trucks? You can bring anything you want. That night I slept better than I had in years. Not because of the money, not because of winning, because for the first time in longer than I could remember, I was free. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Kevin fought, of course. He hired an expensive attorney and tried every trick in the book. He claimed the lottery winnings were marital property. He argued for joint custody. He painted himself as a devoted husband who had made one small mistake. But the evidence was overwhelming. The photographs, the hotel receipts, the documented pattern of financial control. My testimony about years of being belittled and dismissed. And most importantly, the paper trail showing that I had purchased that lottery ticket with money I had saved myself money Kevin knew nothing about and had no claim to. The judge ruled in my favor on almost every count. The lottery winnings were deemed my separate property. Kevin received his share of the marital assets, which amounted to a portion of the equity in our house and his retirement accounts. I received primary custody of Ethan, with Kevin getting visitation every other weekend. When I walked out of that courthouse, Sandra shook my hand. It is over, she said. You did it. I looked up at the sky, gray and overcast, typical Ohio weather. But to me, it felt like the sunniest day of my life. We did it, I corrected her. Thank you for everything. The first thing I did with my money was pay off the house. Not Kevin's house. A new house. A beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in Westlake with a big backyard for Ethan to play in and excellent schools nearby. It was not a mansion. I did not want a mansion. I wanted a home. And that is exactly what I got. The second thing I did was set up a trust fund for Ethan's education. Whether he wanted to go to community college or Harvard, the money would be there waiting for him. The third thing was harder but necessary. I donated a significant portion to charity, a children's hospital in Cleveland, a nonprofit that supports single mothers trying to escape difficult situations, a scholarship fund for young women pursuing accounting degrees. It felt right giving back. Like I was sharing my impossible luck with people who needed it more than I did. After the dust settled, I went back to school. I had let my CPA certification lapse during my years as a stay-at-home mom. I studied for the exam again, passed it on my first try, and felt a pride I had almost forgotten I could feel. Then I did something I never expected. I started my own business. It is a small accounting firm that specializes in helping women and families manage their finances. I wanted to teach people the skills I wish I had known earlier: how to save, how to protect themselves, how to recognize when a partner is using money as a weapon. The firm is not going to make me millions more, but it makes me happy. It gives me purpose. Ethan adjusted to our new life better than I expected. Children are resilient like that. He loves his new room, his new school, his new friends. He still sees Kevin on designated weekends, and I make sure to never speak badly about his father in front of him. Whatever Kevin did to me, he is still Ethan's dad. But Ethan knows where his home is. He knows who is always there for him. I heard through the grapevine that Kevin's life did not go well after the divorce. His company went through layoffs, and he was among those let go. Something about restructuring, though. I suspect his reputation took a hit when word got around about the affair. Megan broke things off with him shortly after the divorce was finalized. Apparently, she did not want to be with a man who had nothing to offer anymore. I do not take pleasure in his misfortune. I do not feel satisfaction watching him struggle. I feel nothing at all. And that more than anything tells me I have truly moved on. People ask me sometimes what it feels like to win $50 million. They expect me to talk about the cars, the houses, the vacations, the freedom to buy anything I want. But the truth is, the money was just a catalyst. The real victory was something else entirely. For 5 years, I let a man define my worth. I believed him when he called me a burden. I shrank myself smaller and smaller, trying to fit into the tiny space he allowed me to occupy. Winning the lottery gave me options. But standing outside that office door, hearing the truth about who my husband really was, that gave me clarity. I could have opened that door. I could have screamed, cried, made a scene that would have felt good for maybe 5 minutes. Instead, I chose strategy over emotion. I chose my future over my pain. I chose my son's well-being over my need for immediate revenge. The most satisfying decision of my life was not keeping the money from Kevin. It was realizing that I deserved better, that I had always deserved better, and then actually doing something about it. If you are watching this, and you are in a relationship where you feel invisible, where your contributions are dismissed, where you are made to feel like a burden, I want you to know something. Your worth is not determined by a paycheck. Your value is not measured in dollars. And you do not need anyone's permission to take control of your own life. Sometimes life gives you a winning ticket. Sometimes it is literal, like it was for me. Sometimes it is a moment of clarity, a glimpse of truth that changes everything. Either way, the choice of what to do next is always yours. I am 34 years old. I am a single mother. I run my own business. I live in a house that I chose, filled with memories I am creating, surrounded by people who see me for who I really am. I have never felt richer, not because of the millions in my bank account, but because I finally know my worth, and no one can ever take that from me again. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a moment that changed everything, a choice that set you free? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your words might help someone else who is going through their own struggle right now. If this story touched you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these videos. And if you have not already subscribed to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know whose life you might change. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. I wish you strength. I wish you clarity. And most of all, I wish you the courage to know your worth. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.